thank you everyone for coming tonight. Lots of new faces tonight and lots of familiar ones, so thank you, and a few out-of-town guests as well. So thank you everyone for coming. My name is Deb Angus. I'm the founder of this group. And Josie is our co-founder, and she's the one who suggested having a success story session. So this is a new idea for us, and I like it so much we're going to do it every year. At the end of May is our last meeting for the year, and then we start up again in September. We take the summer off. So it's just to let you know ahead of time. And so tonight we're talking about survivor warrior success stories. But first I'll go over our meeting structure. So I'm going to give myself 10 minutes if I can manage that. Hi, Pat.
Hi.
I'm going to go over a quick meeting introduction and outline for this evening. And then our two guest speakers here will be doing their introductions about their concussion history and that type of thing. And I've slotted them 20 minutes, but if you need more than that, please feel free to do that. And then following by, I'm thinking maybe a 30-minute question and answer period for everybody to ask them questions. But if we need longer, we can go into our sharing circle and use up that time. And so if anybody did come here that wanted to talk about anything specifically, just come to me directly after the meeting. We don't record that part, or you can talk amongst yourselves as well. But we would like to be out of the building by 9 at the latest. So a little bit of an introduction here why people find recovery from concussion so mysterious. It can be difficult for others to understand because it's a non-visible injury. There's no hospitalization involved a lot of times either. It wasn't for me, wasn't for you, wasn't for you. So there's little to no awareness, not only with the general public, but also within the medical community. A lot of people are shocked to find out that their family doctors get no training in concussions or neurology. And then they go there and say they expect him or her to have them all the answers and say, okay, everything will be all right. But normally what they're hearing is say, oh, just rest for a couple of weeks, take a few aspirins, and everything will be all right. Well, it hasn't been happening that way. So just for people to be aware that your family doctor has limited knowledge on this. So it's up to you to record and report, document all your concussion and all your symptoms and keep going back. If you're not better after that 2 weeks or whatever they say you're going to be better, go back and have it documented. And after 3 months or before that, there are programs in Calgary that you have access to, and we won't discuss those tonight. We have earlier videos, so if you're new to our group or new to watching our videos, go onto our Facebook page or onto our YouTube channel and look at the videos there and start with the earlier ones. What is a concussion and consequences of multiple concussion? That's basic information and it'll give you a good start. And many do not understand there is no standard protocol or no care model in place. Every concussion is different, every brain injury is different. It's not like a broken bone. They say, okay, you do this in 6 weeks, you'll be better. It's not that way with concussion. And there is no centralized program available in many provinces across Canada, and Alberta is one of them. Many times we have to be our own advocates. We have to educate ourselves about the complexities of this injury, and we have to fight. We actually have to fight for the tested therapies we need. People who are new to this and who have known me over all the years of dealing with this, they're absolutely shocked. They don't realize there's no centralized program in place. Extremely debilitating, dealing with multiple functional symptoms of a concussion, and especially if there's no family or workplace supports or understanding of this injury with the people around you. And then you start hearing things, well, aren't you better yet? Like it's been 3 months. And they don't understand because the public awareness is so low. I see you guys laughing.
You look okay.
Yeah, exactly, because it's non-visual injury. That's why I said, I see you guys over there giggling. So we are, the other complication here as well too, when you're dealing with a concussion injury, we are dealing with a societal mentality of a 5 to 10 day sick leave. And anything longer than that, people become very uncomfortable. Not only them, but also us while we're dealing with this and trying to figure it out. Many simply do not grasp the fact that recovery from concussion can take weeks, months, sometimes years, especially with more complicated concussive injuries. Multiple concussions can lead to permanent injury, such as what happened to me. I had 3 prior concussions, wasn't aware of them until the 4th one came along. Couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting better. And it turned out it was a mild, borderline moderate traumatic brain injury, and it is permanent injury. And when you get to that point, and even with the simpler concussions, you will have some lingering symptoms. And so 100% recovery is generally not to be expected. You could be dealing with lifelong cognitive deficits and physical limitations, but it is possible to live well in spite of brain injury. So on that note, and I'm pleased to present to you 2 women who have made great strides in their recoveries and are here this evening to share with us their healing journeys. So first up is Marley. She's a small business owner, and she had a workout accident with a 10-pound medicine ball that hit her in the chin. So she is now 3 years post-injury, and this is her 3rd concussion. And then our next speaker is CJ. She's an instructor at SAID. Welcome, CJ. And she had a fall on ice, and 8 years post-injury. This was her 1st concussion, but because the injury was so severe, she was diagnosed as moderate TBI. And for anybody who's new here or new watching online, this is the model that I put together to try and explain these terminologies. And concussion is part of the traumatic brain injury continuum. It is a serious injury. But then if you have 1 concussion or 2, you're not doing too badly. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks to a couple of months if it's a simple concussion, and you should be better. But sometimes you have a complicated one and it takes longer. And if you have multiple concussions, then you're crossing this red line and you're getting more into the mild, moderate, severe traumatic brain injuries, and those are permanent territory. You do not want to be there. So on here, so onward we go here with our success stories, and our first speaker is Marley. So have at her and let us know what happened and what has been good for you and not so good.
Okay. Hi, I'm Marley. Let's see. I was working out, and luckily I was really strong when I injured myself because I didn't do anything after that for a really long time. So at least I had, my strength and my health to kind of carry me through for a little while. I didn't want to believe that I had a concussion, so I didn't go to the doctor right away. I went a few days later and to urgent care, and the doctor there just told me that I had bruised my jaw joints and I was fine. He said, "You don't have a concussion." I'm like, "Are you sure? I feel off. It takes a lot for me to come here." And he's like, "Nope, you're totally okay." Okay, continue as usual. So I continued as usual. I actually, except for the working out thing, because I was not feeling right, but I was driving, I drove to Edmonton, I flew home, I was doing regular normal things. And then one morning I woke up with what felt like a lightning bolt going through my head. It was just so painful. So I went back to urgent care. I'm like, okay, listen, something's really off. And that was 10 days after I first went. And the doctor there said, "Well, I don't even have to do this test with you. I can just tell, you're concussed. It's pretty obvious." He's like, "You shouldn't even be walking." And I had walked to urgent care, so I was feeling pretty great about myself then. Anyway, so then the concussion didn't heal, and nobody really knew where to send me or what to do. So I pretty much just stayed at home and tried to be in the dark and quiet, and that's great for a little period of time, but you can't actually live that way. That's not life. So I took it easy, and I stayed off my screen, and because that would irritate me. And so then I got to the 3-month mark, and after that, if you still have a concussion, you're pretty much in the post-concussion syndrome thing. But I didn't know I was in until about the 6-month mark when I went to the doctor for something else, and he looked at me and he's like, "Wow, you're super concussed. I can tell just by looking at you." But he didn't know what to do either. So then he let me have my doctor appointments on the phone from there on out, because he did know that I shouldn't be probably driving to the doctor. So that was really kind of him. And and then he talked about the car program that I did end up getting into, which I did find really helpful.
You did find it?
Yeah, I did.
That's good.
I've heard some people say that I didn't learn anything, it wasn't very helpful, but I think there were 6 of us in there, and they told us, for the next 2 weeks, basically, if you're working, stop working, your job is to plan your days, even brushing your teeth. And one of the guys in there said, what? Like, I'm not gonna stop working. And they said to him, like, do you want to get better or not? So it's sort of a defining moment. He didn't come back. But I went back, and what I really liked about it too is it was a group setting. So you're with people who get what you're going through, and you understand what others are going through, which is very helpful, because up there, I didn't really find any empathy or support, or even people understanding what I was going through, like, at all. So in fact, one moment was pretty distressing for me, and I was just at the grocery store getting groceries, and then I couldn't remember my PIN to my card. It's 4 digits. It's something that I know. Anyway, so I was just standing there trying to remember it, and probably looking pretty glazed over, I don't know, but the cashier said, like, come on, like, what, like, hurry up, because there were people behind me. And I just looked at him like, I have a brain injury. So it's like, right, because you can't tell. You can't really tell. You can tell a little bit. Like, I notice on some people now, if, they've got, like, really marble-looking eyes. Like, have you noticed that? Like, yeah. Or with yourself, right? Like, I started noticing.
In the mirror.
Pardon me?
In the mirror in the bathroom.
In the mirror in the bathroom. Right, so I noticed, wow, I do really look different to myself. And then I started noticing people I went to Dr. Nunchi for Functional Neurology, which did really help me, but I noticed the eyeballs in there too, right? Because people go to her with brain injuries, so it's pretty fascinating to me. I'm like, oh, here's like the clue. Anyway, right? But when do we really sit with people and look into their eyes? Not very often. Okay, so my first 2 concussions, the first one I was 12 and I blacked out while I was on a swing, and I fell off the swing, and like I didn't even know what a concussion was then, and I didn't tell my parents, but I can tell you that the blue sky was orange and the green grass was blue, and it was like things were off, but I was sleeping over at a friend's house that weekend, so we just continued on. My parents never ever knew about that. And then like the colors came back, whatever, and I'm like, I'm okay. And then when I was 27, I was in Whistler, and it was a zip lining accident. And they said it was a new zip line, and so the last one had this huge airbag that you crash into. And they said anybody who has a neck injury, don't go on it. I'm like, I'm fine. So I went, and I slammed so hard, I had a whiplash, and definitely concussed myself. And great, because it was just like, I was out of it for a really long time. Friends who were massage therapists are like, wow, you're really off. That's what that was. But I didn't seek any medical attention for that or anything. I just know that happened. So it was a bit of a disappointment too, and I didn't experience post-concussion syndrome with either of those, but with this third one, I did, and it was such a bummer. Like,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you didn't experience
post-concussion syndrome with the first 2?
Yeah.
Because usually they heal concussions on their own within 3 months. From what I've read, 85 to 90% of them heal on their own within the first 3 months, but then after that, they don't know if or when it will heal.
Yeah.
So that was a real life bummer to be in that category. It kind of changed my life. So I have my own business. I'm a healer, so my work's really spiritual, so I could still work because there's no, I don't want to say there's no cognitive part of my work. There is, but it's a meditative process mostly. So I could still work, but I did have an office, and at that 3-month mark is when the lease came up again, and I decided to close my office and try and get better. So that was also a bummer. It was just like bummer after bummer after bummer. I don't know if you guys have been going through bummers, but I think it's pretty relatable to me, like just having a bummer after a bummer after a bummer. And also, I was like, I'm okay, right? Because I wanted to be okay. I didn't want to have a brain injury. So I just kept trying to motor along as best as I could.
Talk yourself out of it.
I really like wearing toques anyway, but I wore a toque most of the time, and I sort of announced to people close to me, like, this is my cast. So, because if you have a broken leg, people are like really careful about your legs. They can see your cast, but with a brain injury, there's no universal signal for it. So I made one. Just like my head's hurt. Yeah. So it sucked, and it was almost a year after I injured myself that I found Dr. Nenshi, who practices functional neurology. I think it took me so long to find her because her SEO on her website is very functional neurology, and like we don't search that. We search concussion, brain injury, TBI, right? Super simple stuff. So I got to learn what that was through working with her, and it was expensive, but also worth it because I have my life back. I did go through a period of time where I basically needed to say goodbye to who I was and accept that my life was different now and that I wasn't going to probably be able to do some of the things that I really loved doing. Like I gave up snowboarding for the most part. I mean, I went once this year. But yeah, I gave up things where I might hit my head or get hurt, mostly. But then there's all those things that you do that, like, you know, driving in a car, you could get in a car accident. I'm not going to stop driving in my car. Like, you can walk down the street in winter or not, but you can slip and fall and hit your head that way. So it's completely unavoidable. Still have to live life. It's been interesting too because my dad had a brain injury when he was my age, and like a really, really bad one. He's bleeding out of his ears, and I didn't get it when I was a kid. I was 17, and like nobody got it back then, I think. And so I have a lot of empathy and compassion around it. Just even like your mood can change. Didn't even go through that. Like I get super angry for no reason, and I'm just not, that's not generally me. That's usually not someone's experience with me. So I'd be short and angry about things, and it's like I couldn't control it. Like I couldn't, right? Like I couldn't put it back in my mouth if I said something. And my dad was kind of like that too when I was a teenager. He'd just get upset about what seemed like nothing really quick suddenly. Yeah, or crying for no reason. It's fun run. It's fun for my kids. Why are you crying? It's just the brain injury. So yeah, that's basically life.
That's a good one.
I feel pretty good now. I still cry a little bit once in a while.
Yeah, great. And CJ, you're up next. Thank you. And I forgot to mention, please hold off any questions until both ladies are done their intros.
Well, I'll stand up because then I can see three over Marley's head. So I'm CJ. So I thought what I would do is just give you a little picture of who I was right after the accident. Well, who I was before the accident, who I was right after the accident, and then who I am now. So it might help to have a little comparison. So before the accident, I was a teacher. I ran an oil and gas training company as well, taught at SAIT. I have 2 kids. And so I was really busy and happy and just going all the time. And then in 2011, in February, I slipped on the ice and landed on my head. Just walking down the street. Landed on my head, and I lost like pretty much everything. I had to learn how to walk and how to speak and how to read and how to, you know, I always use this example of thinking. I don't know if you went through this stage, but if I wanted to think about something, a thought would come into my head like as if you would put it on this table. And then within 2 or 3 seconds, the thought slid off the table. So I couldn't actually think about anything because I couldn't hold it long enough. I couldn't read, I couldn't write it, and I couldn't actually even look at a piece of paper because it was blindingly bright. And so I lost most things. I didn't know who my kids were. I was in bed for about 9 months because I couldn't stay awake. I mean, first that was drugs. And then apparently it was my hormones, because when you have a brain injury, I'm sure you've had people talk about this, but no matter how big or small your brain injury, you disrupt the hormone function, which is in the center of your brain, and that all gets messed up. And so that can account for lots of the anger, which, I mean, I screamed at my kids, like right in their face, bah, bah, I was screaming at my kids, and I didn't know why, and I couldn't stop. So lots of crazy and crying all the time. I was so paranoid. And here's the thing, I would go downtown to the car program on the handy bus because I couldn't learn how to get to the train. I couldn't learn how to get on a bus. I couldn't learn how to buy a ticket. So I went on the handy bus, and I did learn a lot of things. Actually, you were talking about the car program. So when I went to the car program, there was no group. It was just individual. So I spent every day an hour with the social worker, an hour with the occupational therapist, an hour with the speech therapist. I couldn't speak. I couldn't, I was crawling around the house and, so lost my train of thought. I just wanted to tell you this because I find this really interesting. I would leave the house to go on the handy bus and come home, and the front door would be wide open. Like, good thing we didn't have a dog. The front door would be wide open. Little did I know that I left it open because I forgot that when you leave the house, you have to lock the door, and I didn't know that piece. And so I would come home like, there's somebody in my house, and I was completely paranoid. So I went through a period of like what I would consider to be really classic mental illness. Like, I went through a massive depression. I went through this time of like crazy hyper manic. I went through this paranoia. I would come home, the door's open. I would have to phone a friend and say, like, can you come over with your teenagers and go all through the house and look in every closet and under every bed? Because I think somebody's in my house. And my friend tells me now, it happened about once a week, that they would have to come over to the house, go all through. And now, it sounds a little crazy to me, but at the time, I was absolutely sure there must, because I didn't leave the door open, so somebody went in. Anyway, so that kind of was who I was after the accident. I couldn't read, couldn't write. I could not, like, if you asked me the question, where do you want to sit? When we came in, Deb said, where do you want to sit? If you had asked me that question, even 6 years ago, I would have spent maybe 3 hours trying to figure out what is the answer to this question. I can't make a decision. And I couldn't even figure out, like, how do people make decisions? And something that simple would lay me out for a day. So I couldn't problem solve. Like, all my executive functions were gone. I spoke like I'd had a stroke, like a major stroke. And so I couldn't put a sentence together. And then, Terry, you were saying if I do my rehab every day for 6 hours, I can fake it really well. So that was me. So I learned how to quickly think of 10 little tiny words that could replace the normal word that I wanted to say that I couldn't find anywhere. And so I would quickly try to replace it and explain it. And people tell me now, like, you went all around trying to find a word, and 5 sentences later, you're trying to explain one thing. But anyway, so I had brain fog. I had brain fog like pea soup, which I'm sure that's very familiar. I had pain like migraine on top of a migraine on top of a migraine, which I'm sure is also very familiar. And now I started a new career. I've gone back to university, and I'm still in university actually, but the school where I work hired me because of my background while I'm still going to university. So I'm learning a new job, teaching immigrants how to speak English, how to function in society in Canada. I do a lot of prep work. I read everything, I write everything, I prepare lessons, I make modules. So how I function now is dramatically different. It's a little different than how I was before the concussion, but it's like nothing compared. So I want to just give you a couple of things about kind of what got me from there to here. But I will say this, the thing that was the biggest was that when I finished at the CAR program, they said to me, this is your new normal, and you will be much happier when you just accept that. And I thought, I can't read, I can't write, I still don't have any idea how to parent my teenagers. In 5 minutes I won't remember this conversation, and you want this to be my new normal. And I just thought, no, that's not. I mean, I might not get back to 100%, but this is not the end. Like, I might as well just shoot myself in the head. Like, this is not the end. This is not how it's gonna be. So I did the CAR program. I'll say the best thing about the CAR program was I had to learn how to put a seatbelt on the handy bus. That was really hard to learn. I had to learn how to read the numbers on the elevator so I could go to the right place. And she was incredible. The person I had before her was terrible and said, you know what, you've blown those brain cells, they're never coming back. Oh. And the new woman, Crystal, said, my boyfriend was in a motorcycle accident and nobody told me he couldn't get back to work, so I just worked really hard with him and got him back to work. So I thought, okay, you gotta have a team. You have to have the right people around you. And she was amazing. And then she helped me with a really, 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 really slow back to work plan. I tried at 8 months. Somebody took me to SAIT. Somebody took me up the elevator, put me in my classroom. I looked at my class. I burst into tears. I cried for 20 minutes. And then somebody called my husband and he came and got me and took me home. So that was the 8-month effort, just attempt. And then at about a year and a half, I tried 3 hours a week. And it was really, really bad. Like, so bad. The worst teaching I've ever done. Then at 3 years, I actually wasn't bad. I had written the textbook, so mostly I just stood there and read. And then in 2016, I actually took a job that was 30 hours a week. Mostly because I wanted to see if I could do it. Okay, so what was my job? I was a teacher at SAIT. But what was my job? I made coffee every morning. I answered the phone, and I emptied the garbage at the end of the day. That was my job, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. And when I got really bored, I knew I was ready for the next level. So then I actually started implementing things and grew the organization. It was for seniors, and grew the group. And if somebody would say to me, can you do this? I'd say, yes. Then I'd close the door, go on YouTube, and watch about 3 hours, one YouTube video, how to change the printer or whatever, how to lock the door, I don't know. Lots of time on YouTube. And then in 2018, I completely changed direction, went back to university, and now I have a job that I absolutely love. I still teach at SAIT, and I actually do it really well now. I still teach at SAIT, and every day for 3 or 4 hours I teach refugees. And so I just want to say this. No matter who, even if it's you telling you, but no matter who is saying, just get used to your new normal, because it'll be better. Just accept that this is how it is. It's not true. It's your new normal for right now. It doesn't mean this is it. Like, there's so much more that you can accomplish, and you just have to decide. So the biggest thing for me was when Crystal, my brain assist woman, said to me, I didn't know that he couldn't go back to work. So we just did the work. And I thought, okay, did the work. So that's my story.
Wonderful, thank you. So now we'll open up the floor for questions.
I like that you, when they said that's your new normal, some people accept that as a destination, and you're just passing through.
Very good.
And, you know, I've been told it's my destination so many times, and haven't spoken to a traveler. Yeah, so it's good to know.
I actually went to a grief counselor. I found a woman who said, I don't get it. And like, who died? I said, yeah, I died. And she said, I said, just treat me as if somebody died. Let's just work with that. And what happened was I cried so much that I grieved not the loss of me, because I knew I was going to fight back, but the loss of the time that I lost with my kids, like 6 years I lost of my kids' lives, and 6 years of my career, and 6 years of my marriage. So I just grieved that, and when I was finished crying, I was ready to get to work.
Yeah.
Terry?
Okay. From SAVIS, what we talk about a lot of times on the recovery is, don't expect the recovery in minutes, days, months, but to see one small difference might take years.
Yes.
And it's funny because that's sort of where I'm at now, is I just keep working. And even a lot of the people, because I have lots of appointments every week, and one said last week, you treat this recovery like it's a full-time job.
Well,
And
yeah.
I says, it is.
Yeah.
Right? And it's funny because even for me, I don't realize how far I've come a lot of times. And my wife will sit down with me and say, well, don't you remember back at this time where you were?
Right.
And I go, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because it is such a slow process, so you don't see the changes.
Yeah. Well, and Marley will have a story about this too, but what I finally realized was I have to see some measurable success. I have to see something. I can't just keep going and having no idea. And so there was a Sudoku, how do you say that word?
Sudokus.
Book in the bathroom. So for the first 6 or 8 or 10 weeks, I didn't know that it was in the bathroom. I didn't see it. I didn't even notice that there was a book sitting right there. And then little by little I started to notice there was a book. No idea what it was about. Could have been a murder mystery. I didn't know. And then I realized it was a book, and I opened the page, and I was blinded. But then 8-10 weeks later, I would open the book, and I could see it was a white page, and then all these like squigglies moving around, dancing around on the page. But I knew I made progress when the dancing stopped. Didn't know what it meant, but the dancing stopped. And then, 2 months later, I could see that it was a box. Didn't know what that stuff in the box was, but I knew it was a box. And then 3 months later, I understood they were numbers. I didn't know what numbers, but so I kind of just measured it always by that book. Like for years, I used that one book
That's called neuroplasticity. It does take time, but your brain will rewire itself. But it does take time. Yeah, and it takes effort as well too. You have to keep at it.
And for me, I just needed to see something measurable. Like, I can understand this page better than 6 months ago. So I know I'm getting better, even though nobody else could tell. So I don't know what you use to kind of measure, but I just had to have something to prove to myself
Yeah.
that I was making forward progress.
And that's what we say here. You have to celebrate the little things along
Yes.
the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tied my shoes today. I had trouble tying bows.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you just start saying, oh, I tied a bow.
Yes.
Simple little things like that, but you have to celebrate it because those are milestones in your recovery. Yeah. And we're so hard on ourselves. Yeah. Did you experience any of that, Marley? Loss
had
of self?
Yeah,
Yeah.
loss of self,
Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of like you have to ask yourself, like, or I had to ask myself, like, do I want to be here,
Yeah.
right? Because, like, I really isolated myself too, especially after, you know, comments from the cashier, and it's just like, oh
Yes.
man, like, I'm not going out if I don't have to. But a big win for me was I could read, but I couldn't retain the information. So I'd read a paragraph, and I love reading. So I'd read a paragraph, and I'd be like, what did I just read? So I'd read the paragraph again. No idea what I just read, right? I read it like 4 times. Like, why can't I remember this? Yeah. And I'm like, no, I got this. Like 4 sentences, right? So read it again. No, nothing. And then in working with Nenshi, I don't know, at some point, maybe after about a month, I could retain information again. So that was amazing, and I felt like I'm all better now. Right? Like you're like, I can read, I can retain information, we're good. Because I didn't want to have a brain injury. But luckily, you know, then she was witness to how I was really doing, and she's like, yeah, you're not done yet. So, and I'm glad I continued on, because a lot of people, you get to about 90% and you're done, right, with anything. Like you're like, yeah, I feel pretty good, I don't need to get to 100, I'm done. But I did get to like my 100 with her, and it took a couple of months, but yeah, that was huge.
Yeah.
Retaining information.
That's an attention and concentration issue, and I had that as well, and they found out for me repetition worked best. So like
Well,
what you were doing is going over and over and over.
It didn't work best for me. It
No?
was just frustrating.
Yeah.
But repetition in, let me see. So she does this thing called interactive metronome. So it uses a metronome, whatever, or it's just like a sound. And then on the sounds, you do different motions. So sometimes it's clap your hands when you're trying to get it right bang on the sound, or your hip, your other hip, your toe tap, whatever. It seems super simple and kind of, why am I doing this? Did something great for my brain, I can read again. So, yeah, I guess there are little and big wins all along the way, and yeah, I feel pretty happy now. But,
Is there anybody here who's new into concussion, maybe just into it for a few months or anything like that? So yours was a complicated concussion,
Yeah.
which is good for you to be hearing this.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
worried about anybody who's been just new into it for a few months and freaking out that it's taking years. But these are 2 complicated cases, and I tried to get people in here who were simple, first-time concussions, back to work in 3-4 months type of thing. One gal didn't want to talk in public, and the other gal wasn't available. She really wanted to come, but her schedule wasn't available. But I just wanted to clarify with anybody here that if you're just new into the concussion world, don't freak out. These are 2 complicated cases. Yeah.
Your bad one took a really long time.
Yeah. Any other questions? I have one for you guys, for you gals. How has your perspective on concussions changed now after your healing journey compared to what you thought about concussions beforehand?
I never thought about concussions beforehand.
Yeah?
No.
Me neither.
No?
Why would you think about it, right? Like if
Yeah.
it's not present in your life and nobody has one around you.
Yeah? You never thought about it? You never heard about it? And you just
Nope.
thought, it's just a bump on the head, get over it and get on with life?
I don't even think I thought that.
No?
Yeah, I just didn't.
Which
think about
makes it easier dealing with all the people who say really stupid things. You know, like, are you sure it's not just hormones?
Oh, yeah.
Or aren't you better yet? It's been a month. Or, like,
Are you gonna keep using the concussion card?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
or what they
I don't
don't
want
actually
to.
say out loud, but it's on their face. I'm pretty sure you're faking this.
Yeah. And this is because of
wish
the
I
low
was
awareness of concussion
Totally
and
low.
brain injuries. People are not aware.
Like, we didn't have a clue.
No.
Not a clue.
Yeah,
You don't really need to know until you need to know.
I
Yeah.
And
guess.
then you're like, I
Yeah.
don't know anything about this.
Well, we did have one guy here at a meeting a couple of months ago, and he said, "Oh, I thought Sidney Crosby was, just being a wimp until it happened to him." And he said, "Now I get it."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Well,
shocking.
I had one of the nurses on my team who I changed because of concussion. And after about 3 months, she said, "Why don't you just smarten up?
Oh,
You were my manager, smarten up." And it just took me back.
yeah.
We don't see each other anymore. No, I don't see a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
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 Would you like us to talk about what has helped the most?
Yes.
Yeah? I mean, I was just thinking if I was sitting on that side of the table, that would be my number one question. So Marley, what would you say has been, what things have made the biggest difference?
Functional neurology. And then having a support person who gets it or is trying to get it. Like my husband's never had a concussion, so he was going through this with me, but once he, sort of figured it out a bit, just to have somebody who can somewhat understand what you're going through, and also make sure, because you want to push yourself like maybe a little too, or I like to push myself a little bit too hard, so it's not really helpful. He'd be there to be like, okay, like maybe slow down. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I think you might have something
Yeah.
to say about
Or-
that, Gayleen and
Or
Dean.
just tell you when you have to go lay down, you don't look good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
No, it's helpful. It's not always welcome.
Actually, I've got over it.
Yeah.
She knows me way better than I do now.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask a question, if you don't mind. Your reading issues. A lot of mine have come back. I still can't remember paragraphs, especially if there's a lot of detail in the scenery. Did you have trouble with conjunctions like but? Like when you're reading, yeah, like
Double negative.
double negative. Like, there was something not, and then they would go but there's this. I struggle to this day when it changes direction like that in a sentence.
I
And
haven't-
I have my master. Well, back in the '80s when
Yeah.
I graduated, masters was a big thing. Like I was a very intelligent person. I cannot get conjunctions anymore.
You know what? I don't know if I can get them or not, but I've been homeschooling my son this year, and I've become a very literal person now. Let me see, it kind of pisses people off, but I don't. If it's not written how I'm meant to read it, I won't get it. Like in a math book, anyway. If there's a long question in a math book, and often there are errors in math books, I have no idea, but there are, and my son's teacher told me that there are. He's like, oh, but you can just get it. I'm like, actually, I can't because it's written wrong. So, like, why don't you, tell me how it's supposed to be written, and then I'll understand it. Because, like, I can't make this up, right? Like, it's a math question. Yeah, so I probably struggle with that, and I just haven't noticed, I guess, or...
I'm sure I was before, and this doesn't help, but I was on the spectrum because I'm very focused.
Yeah.
Partially autistic, I'm sure. But as I would read and try and understand what was going on in my brain, as soon as I hit, and it's more so like Galen says, a double negative, where she was not doing something unintentionally. It's like, whoa.
You're like, wait a sec.
because it's not what you were expecting.
It's the diversion of my thought process, I just can't handle it.
Pretty sure I'm on the spectrum.
No, I meant to like
No.
way before, but I'm very focused on what I
Yeah.
can do. So I kind of pick apart why I'm having problems.
Yeah.
And it's almost like paper, except I think I like a train, and then all of a sudden I just can't adapt to that change.
I
In the
totally hear you.
The biggest thing that helped for me, well, two things that really helped for that, but also helped for the where do you want to sit, like all the decision-making, problem-solving, those kind of basic skills. I found some really, really good brain supplements, and I found Lumosity. And Lumosity is a website.
Luminosity. Yeah.
Lumosity.
Yeah.
Lumosity is a website where you can go on and you can select, like, I want to really work on problem solving, or I want to work on decision making. I want to work on information processing, which I think is a piece of that can't change gears thing. And there are several games, and you can, like, how normal people use Lumosity just to kind of, get a little smarter or whatever. The website says to you, today do this game, this game, this game, this game. How I used it, because I was in charge of my own rehab, how I used it was I would choose one area, processing speed. I would pick one game, and I would play that game like unceasingly until my brain started to hurt, just before the massive, bigger headache. And then I would step back and rest, then come back, play the same game again until I was just about ready to explode, then go back, rest, come back, and I would play that same game. And the skill that I really wanted started to rebuild. Then I would pick another game that was the same skill and learn how to play it and play it and play it and play it and play it. Then pick another game and play it and play it and play it. And so, over the course of about a year, and really brain supplements make a big difference, like it gives you more raw material to work with. But I kind of think about it like this. If you're going to take supplements, they'll give you more capacity, but it's still our responsibility to rebuild the skills that we want. So I just picked, what's the most important thing? What do I have to know how to do next if I'm a mom? What do I have to know? I have to know how to lock the door, or whatever. And practice memory games, processing speed, switching, games where you have to switch. When it's blue, hit the vowel. When it's yellow, hit the consonant. Switching. That's really good for processing speed and for that task switching thing where what you're looking at or what's happening in a room or what's happening in the elevator or what's happening in traffic suddenly does not go the way you were expecting. You can rebuild that skill of how to deal with that.
Like a brain shift.
Like a
Yeah.
brain shift,
Yeah.
and so you just practice, and you can literally,
Yeah.
because we built it in the first place.
Yeah.
We were in preschool, we were in kindergarten, we fell down, we got up, we put the water in the sink, we took the shovel, like we did create those in the first place. So I found that Lumosity was a way to recreate that opportunity to rebuild all those skills.
Did you use any
I-
programs?
No,
No.
but I bought this for my son as part of his homeschooling program, and I've been doing it. It's called a Turing tumble. It's like Turing, Turing, tumble. It's amazing. So it's a computer, but it's not a computer. It's a marble. You use marbles. Okay. There's gears and little shifty things, and like even my husband, who's never had a brain injury, he did one of the challenges on it, and you basically have red marbles, blue marbles, and then the book tells you, okay, you need to make this pattern. And sometimes it's red, blue, or 3 red, 6 blue, and then make it stop. So then you have all of these gears and switches and stuff, and you put them in the board, and then you start it, and you're trying to get the pattern. But
Yeah.
so my husband did, I think it was, I don't know, challenge 17, there's 60 challenges. And then he went and he sat on the couch, and my son and I continued playing on it. And my husband was sitting there and he's like, my brain was working. I could feel that my brain was working. Yeah, because I got stuck on, I think, challenge 9 or 10 or something.
So is this a software program that
No,
you
it's
download?
it's
a unit?
It comes in the mail. It's a game.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Turing tumble. You set it up. And
Turing. Okay.
That's so cool.
it's so cool. And every time I've done it, like I'm like, whoa, like you can feel your brain working. And the challenges, they get progressively more difficult. Like we're stuck at 25 right now. Like I'm just like, I solved the red ones because the red one is like 6 blue, 3 or 4 red, and then you make it stop. I
Yeah.
solved the red portion, and I've left the blue up to my son. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't.
Anybody else here use any computer programs for brain rewiring and training? What did you use?
It's Brain HQ, and it's...
Yes, I use that one, yeah.
Michael Merzenich.
No, I use Brain Age on the Nintendo DS units
Oh.
with as a Japanese doctor.
Oh.
Yeah, I love that. I did both units. I did Brain Age 1 and Brain Age 2. And Sudoku came in there, so that's how I learned how to do it. As soon as I saw it and I said, numbers, I'm never going to be able to do this. I did eventually, yeah. You just got to keep at it.
So
And
then
Cheryl?
what was yours called?
Brain Age,
Brain-
but it's on the Nintendo DS units. It's like a
Oh.
little Game Boy thing or whatever, and this was in the early 2000s. So I have to check, see what how it's available now.
And
Right.
Donna, yours was called what?
It's called Brain HQ, and
Brain.
Michael Merzenich is up there with the neuro people. And you can do different challenges, and you have to get us it, and it keeps track and sends you daily. But I haven't been faithful with that.
So this is a downloadable software?
It's right on the computer. You don't need software. It's
But
just
you-
an app.
You down,
Yeah.
oh, now,
Yeah, you
okay.
can do it on your laptop or your...
okay.
or your-
And you, Cheryl, what were you using?
I think it's called Elevate. It was recommended by the, how do you say it, physiatrist?
Physiatrist.
Thank you. At the, sorry, I had a hard time getting my, Foothills.
Yeah. What's it called? Sorry, I didn't catch
I
it.
think I could look on I think it's called Elevate.
Okay.
It kind of reminds me of Lumosity. I've only played, what I want to know is, I've only played the free games on Lumosity. They only give you 3 a day.
Okay.
Would it be worth it for me to actually, they do offer sales on that too sometimes, to get a subscription to that? Did I say that right?
What I liked about having the subscription was, it's kind of like getting a membership at the zoo. If you have a membership at the zoo, you can go for 20 minutes, because you've already paid for the year. And so you can go for an hour, or you can go for 5 hours. With Lumosity, I could play for 5 minutes and not feel like, ooh, I'm wasting, and then come back to it, and come back to it, and come back to it. And I could always go back to the games that I needed. I wasn't stuck with whatever games they offered me that day. So for me, it was worth it.
So you did think it was worth the money for the variety of games you would have access to and play them as many times as you want? I guess it
To
does
be
make
able to
sense.
play them and to be able to know, like, I need that game to rebuild my speech,
Right.
which there's a particular game that rewired my brain so I could talk. And that game, I had to play that game.
Did you have speech
200
therapy
times.
at all
Mhm,
from CAR?
mhm.
Okay.
So, didn't help much, but knowing that I could go back to that particular game and it would never disappear off my computer, that helped. Because then I was in control and I could choose, yeah.
Yeah, and I've also found too, if you just do card games and board games, especially anything you enjoyed in your childhood, because that physical and that cognitive thing, there's a rewiring that goes on with your brain when you're physically doing things, rather than just being on the computer. You need a mix. And so like jacks or playing Crazy Eights or match cards or whatever like that, Monopoly, Scrabble, all that kind of stuff I was redoing again. All the stuff I enjoyed as a kid. And I started doing it. And I like the tactile aspect of it,
Yeah.
because for some reason it worked for me. And it just like, oh, okay, this makes sense, rather than, moving things around on the computer, which I did those as well, but I needed more tactile things.
Yeah, that's why I really like the Turing
Yeah.
tumble. It's a marble-powered computer. That's what it is. Yeah. It's awesome.
Have you ever seen that game called Traffic Jam? It's like a square, it's a square that's got tracks, and then it comes with actually about 10 little plastic cars. One's a truck this long, one's a little beetle bug this short, different colors. And then you have a card like you were talking about with your game, and you have to try to look on the card, the long red truck is at the top. So you take physically the red truck and put it in that spot. And then you have to follow the pattern and try to match this to this. So for me at the beginning, that was as far as I could go. Like it was a miracle if I could figure out which one was the red truck. But really, it's a traffic jam. And then you have to try to figure out what do I have to move so that I can move this one so that I can get out. And that's a really good problem-solving developer.
And what was that called?
It's called traffic jam. I think you can get it at Walmart, but I know for sure you can get it at Scholar's Choice.
It's a board game?
It's like it's not a board, it's like a
Puzzle?
it's like a stage.
Oh, okay.
And then on it, it's a bit like Lego, that there are squares on the stage, and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe 5 this way and 5 this way.
Okay.
And then your truck is maybe 4 pieces long. So you have to put it there, and it takes up 4 pieces, and there's only one left, empty. But you can't like jump over. You have to actually think through, I have to move back this one up so that I can get out. Or I have to back this one up so I can move this one over so I can get out. And every level, there's one more level of problem solving. It's an excellent problem-solving developer.
Yeah.
They also
They
sell
also
it at
have-
Calendar Club.
Yeah.
They also have apps that have it. I have it on
Yeah.
my phone.
Oh,
It's
cool.
called Parking Escape.
Ah.
She plays that one a lot.
I find it allows me, it gives me something to do that allows my brain to focus on the conversation
Yes,
that's happening, especially if I'm trying to solve a problem.
yes.
And I don't know why I need something else to occupy part of it
Yeah.
in order to concentrate. I don't know, but that's
That's
how
good.
it is.
Yeah. So we're at our 8 o'clock point right now where we said we would finish up, but does anybody have any other further questions?
I have a
Okay.
question. I find the thing that you struggle with the most at this point is the alphabet soup thing. We're all kind of used to the dishwasher being the washing machine and the washing machine being the dishwasher now. And we think it's cute and we giggle about it, but I know you find it really frustrating. Or when she'll do 80% of the sentence and then just kind of stand there like this and go,
Stuck.
Stop.
and then it's got a very specific side to it. It's like telescope.
What it is in my head is I will get through my sentence and then I will get stuck on a word. And it's not that I'm stuck trying to find the word at this point in time. It used to be that. But now I don't have a problem finding the word. It's just the wrong word. I was telling my son to finish eating his hot dog, but I got stuck with pineapple. It's not the right word.
Yeah.
But I at least have a word now. It's no longer empty space. And I go, and I search around and search around and search around, and then it's just pineapple. It's utter defeat, is what the sign is. It's utter defeat. Did you guys struggle with that? Do you
Yeah.
still struggle with that?
Not
Was there
anymore,
anything
but
that
I went
helped
through a
with-
long, probably 2 years of that. Before that, it was just, never mind. Like nothing was coming up.
Empty space.
Yeah, so that was before, and then I went to that, and now I'm at this. So there's kind of stages.
Okay, what did you do to get help with the
Lumosity.
lumosity?
Okay, we're gonna look at this.
Word bubbles.
She
Okay.
said
It's like you're,
alphabet soup,
you're,
and she's
you're
trying to,
not working, it's not a game that helps you pronounce. It's a game that helps you rewire what got broken here that's not allowing you to come out with the right word.
Yeah.
That's what that game did for me.
Yeah.
And I played it probably 400 times a day
Yep.
with breaks in between.
Yeah.
Has anybody tried anything like like a Wii Fit or something. Or we're contemplating borrowing one from our friend, but just to kind of get like balance and
Yeah.
like, movement in the tapping.
I did try it once because we lived in an apartment building. I didn't want to do it, but there was one where you had to step on bubbles or something, or touch bubbles, and they would burst away. I kind of actually liked it. But when I had to stomp on the floor, I was worried that I was disturbing neighbors below me. Yeah, so I
Some of
never
them like have
pursued
like a
it.
balance board. And
Yeah.
How is your balance?
moving and stuff. Well, I'm.
Yeah, not so good, but does anyone have tips for what helped them with that?
I bought a treadmill.
Oh.
And I started by holding on and walking really slowly. And then little by little, after a year, I could sort of put my hands above the handles and walk and see, and I would like stare at a dot on the ceiling or on the wall and just see, and then I knew I could grab it. That you have to have one that has long, long handles so that you're not reaching like this. It's just beside you.
I found Tai Chi really helped with my balance. And you have to make sure that you have enough vitamin D as well, too. Vitamin D is very important for balance.
Really?
Mhm.
And we don't in the north.
No.
No.
We do not.
And it's not even on the requisition, you have to specifically ask your doctor for it, and they have to write it, at least when I was asking for it, they had to write it in on the requisition.
Vitamin D?
Vitamin D, you want to test your levels.
Oh, to test, yeah.
Yeah.
Where? I said that I found physiotherapy work.
Oh, yes.
and
For balance?
For mobility.
Yeah,
So from just even
Physiotherapy.
sitting into a chair.
yeah, yeah.
those basic-
And that was the vestibular therapy I took too after physiotherapy, and he put me over to vestibular therapy, which is specialized physio, and that changed my life.
Wow.
Then I can start going to grocery stores and all that kind of stuff. Terry?
Yeah, for balance too, I've gone to the Repsol Center. They've got physiotherapists there that specialize in that. And I went for a whole year, and that's part of what I do every day still, and it works on my balance. And then a trick, and this almost has to be beat with my head, but if I walk, or if I want to walk more than a half-city block, I use a stick now. And you'd be amazed at how much that helps with the balance.
I got 2 walking sticks.
Yeah, well, I use
And?
it's called a thumbstick. So it's in between the height of a walking stick and a cane. And, yeah, it makes all the difference in the world.
I've been experimenting just this week with, in my work, I've done a lot of work with dementia and brain health. And one of the things I'm really involved in is a music program. So I just have been trying to sing in my head a song with a beat and walk to that. It's amazing, because I've seen Parkinson patients and how they... So I thought, I'm going to try that. I'm
That's so
very
smart.
excited.
And dance
So-
to your favorite tunes as often as possible.
That's good for your soul, isn't it?
Oh, that's so smart.
I don't know if it was like functional neurology related or just a regular chiro visit, but in working with Nenshi, like I was running into walls. Like my balance was so off. I just smacked into, I tried to turn a corner and I just run right into the wall. Yeah, and after one of my sessions with her, it was just, like I started crying in the office because I had my balance back.
Could you tell us what you did or some of the
To get the balance back.
Yeah,
That was
like,
like working with Dr. Nenshi.
and what did you do though?
She just did an adjustment on me.
She did
Oh.
like
Chiropractic adjustment and
On
and
your
then-
neck or your spine?
I can't even remember
Yeah.
it because it was
Yeah.
right. But a week later, I was at the CAR program and I had booked in with a physiotherapist there to test my balance. And I wish that they would have tested my balance before because it was perfect. Like I was 39 when she helped me correct my balance. And then when I did all of this testing, she said, so you test like per decade, so from 30 to 39. And she said, you have like better balance than most 30-year-olds.
Okay, so thank you very much for you ladies for coming tonight. Thank you very much.
Gift here to you for thanking you for coming and speaking to us.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Isn't it so?
Oh,
I'm so excited.
So I'm shutting the camera off now for our sharing circle.